Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Always Aggressive podcast. I'm Hunter Massengill alongside head coach Henry Ursland and the usual band of suspects, Tanner, Corey behind the scenes. Good to have you back with us, Coach. Missed you last week having a chat with.
Did we really miss him?
Well,
it sounds like you didn't, and that's great because it sounds like Haggerty was a big hit. Listen, I've known Mike for a lot of years,
Yep.
and he's a good man. He's a great official, and so I'm glad it worked out. And if you don't need me, just let me know. I got other things to do. No, well, always good to be here talking to you.
Yeah. I do have some questions for you based off of what we talked about last week with him, just to get your perspective on some of those things. The first thing I want to ask is how this past weekend went with state tournaments, being out, you and the other coaches kind of running around all over the place. Hopefully a successful recruiting weekend for you.
Yeah, no, great weekend. I think I had mentioned before, this is always the time of year you're most excited. Not only because, the end of the year for us, where we kind of reap the fruits of our labor, but you watch all of these high school kids who work so hard as well, and they're excited to get out there and kind of earn their state championships. So, great weekend of recruiting, saw a lot of talent. A lot of future Boilermakers that we're interested in and that are coming that had a lot of good success. So, really enjoy this time of year, and it was a lot of fun to get out and see everybody.
And on that note, Garrett Ninehouse starts his state tournament this weekend out in PA. So,
Yes.
Super excited for Garrett. Wish him the best of luck and bringing home another state title.
Absolutely.
It's this weekend? Their state
The
tournament?
Pennsylvania State Tournament is the same weekend as Big Ten, as is New Jersey. So,
That's really poor timing for states that have really a big wrestling nesting ground.
I didn't know
Yes.
Jersey was, which actually makes it probably
they both
more.
are.
It makes it more impressive that Big Ten's is sold out.
Sure, no doubt. But there's going to be a lot of good wrestling in New Jersey this weekend.
I was reading.
Oh, yeah.
Jersey they shifted a day earlier for states,
Correct.
so that they'd be done by Sunday. They finish up Saturday.
Well, we will certainly get into what you alluded to, some good wrestling going on in the state of New Jersey this coming weekend. But going back to what I said, talking to Mike Haggerty last weekend, from your perspective, when it comes to rule changes and different things that you want to see to move the sport forward, outside of being a head coach, I know that you're part of groups and committees, you're always talking to people, keeping your ear to the ground. How do you go about new rules, new emphases for
Emphasis.
rule changes for officiating? You talk to Mike, you talk to the other coaches, bounce ideas off of each other. How does that work from a head coach's perspective?
Yeah, I think that's always an ongoing conversation with Mike and other coaches, right? You see things that may be problematic or they're not being called in the way maybe you thought it would, and so it impacts the sport in different ways. So I think it's just an ongoing process. The thing that I've come to realize is, the rules, they're on a 2-year cycle. So if you vote something in and agree on it, you got to live with them for 2 years. It just doesn't change like that. Yep. And then if you want to introduce new legislation, you have to start quite a ways out and let it go through the various committees. So, when you're young and you think, well, this isn't right, we got to fix it, and it just snap of the fingers, we can get it done. That's definitely not the case. It's got to move through the different groups and committees. And so really you're always looking ahead, just like anything. I mean, if you're slow, you're dead. You always got to be working ahead and preparing for the upcoming years.
But that definitely has to dissuade you from being too impulsive with the rule stuff. Like you said, if you're stuck with it for 2 years, if wrestlers are passionate and fans are passionate, and there definitely can be a knee-jerk reaction to some certain rules. So it's interesting to hear that whole idea of everybody gets in an uproar, and it's kind of like hands to the face. Hands to the face, we got to fix hands to the face, we got to do it.
Yep.
We did it, everybody was like, wait a second, that's
gone
too far, we got to dial it back. But you got to be careful, it sounds like.
No, that is definitely the case. I mean, you don't want, like anything, right? There's always an overcorrection, it seems like. So you've got to be careful with that. But the pendulum is going to swing so far, and then you're going to get to the point when people are going to be like, yeah, this isn't working. And then what you don't want is that overcorrection where it swings too far back the one way. But it seems to be part of the process. And, you just got to understand how it works and then kind of just make your decisions accordingly, I guess.
And I'm sure it's difficult for you as a head coach. I mean, I talked about it with Mike last week a little bit, but of not letting yourself get caught up in the emotion of, something that a call going against you or something you may disagree with, and not letting that cloud your judgment in the larger, globe of the sport to say what this emphasis or this rule is good for as a sport rather than how it burnt me this past weekend.
Yeah, and that's really the challenge, in my opinion, is that you have to try to make decisions for what's best for the sport, right? Like our whole thing is to continue to try to grow this and promote wrestling, increase the number of fans that we bring in. Because in certain respects, the sport's very healthy, but in others, we're still trying to strengthen our sport. And so not making those emotional decisions or what's just best for me is kind of what you have to guard against. And I think as coaches, right, we're always trying to win. And so you're trying to find that edge and how you can do it as a program. But, you got to sit back after the season's over maybe and evaluate everything as a whole. And it's got to be then greater than just, you.
Yep. Well,
selfish. Don't be selfish.
Well, we talked to Mike about it. We're sure to have him on at the start of next season to go over any new emphasis or rule changes or whatever before the season starts. He was great to talk to, and I'm sure you'd like to have
remarkably
have
transparent.
I
thought that was a really cool thing that he didn't we didn't have to pull any punches. We got to ask everything we wanted to ask, and he answered it accordingly.
Well, enough teasing. Big Tens coming up. Second to last stop on the season.
Yep.
How excited are you for, in my opinion, I'm biased, but the premier wrestling tournament in the country, the Big Ten tournament.
Yep.
I don't think I'm alone in that.
No,
it's really good.
But how excited are you for this weekend?
Yeah, this is the fun part. Competition is always fun, but the amount of work and sacrifice and suffering. I mean, let's just face it. This is a sport we always talk about. It's a 24/7 deal with taking your diet home and showing up the next day ready to work and just everything that goes into it. So I am just incredibly excited. The key for us, and we're gonna get together tonight as a team and have dinner and go through things. But it's just, hey, we're all excited. It's keeping your emotions in check because you can't win it today, and you don't want to burn that energy. Just being revved up from now until Saturday morning. Right. So honestly, it's just being very disciplined in your thoughts and kind of keeping the excitement down. Just go about your business like normal, and get yourself to Saturday, ready to go, all in. When you put your foot on the line, that's the soonest you need to be ready to be all in. To be all in before, you're burning nervous energy that you don't really need to. And so it's going to be about just managing your thoughts and keeping your emotions where they need to be.
I'm going to burn enough nervous energy for everyone this weekend. So you can tell the guys, I've got that covered.
There you go.
So they don't need to worry about that aspect.
So the guys, some of the newer guys that this will be their first go around, Travis Ford Melton, Kendall Coleman, Thomas Panola, getting their first shot at Big Ten tournament. Are tournaments like Cliff Keen, Midlands, are they at a high enough level to prepare for the nerves that you'll have going into Big Tens? I mean, every match is difficult, but I mean, the talent that you're going to see on Saturday and Sunday at Big Tens do those tournaments prepare you for that kind of setting that you're going to step into?
Yeah, absolutely. These guys have been through the grind. The Big Ten schedule is tough enough, and then when you throw in a couple of good other events where you see better competition from the other parts of the country, that's done specifically so these guys can be absolutely confident that they are prepared. They've been through the grind. They've been through the wars. They know what they have to do. So I mean, I always feel incredibly confident, and I feel that we do our best wrestling at the end of the year because of that. So it really does just come down to kind of, hey, it's business as usual. Be who you are. So too often kids want to make this more than what it is. And it's another wrestling match. And while, hey, we know it's accumulation of a year's worth of hard work, trust that everybody who gets this done is themselves. They don't change. My mantra to these guys: very little changes. We're going to do very few things different. It's tweak your technique. If anything, at the end of the year, maybe it gets a little boring. Practices are shorter, but hey, it's repetition on the things that we're about. The things that who you are, what you're about. It's just tweaking those things. So very little changes.
I think it's the big thing about the Big Ten championships that always blows me away, and kind of like the thing you can't straight compare to Midlands or Vegas is the size of the tournament. You go to Midlands and Vegas and you got 25, 30 guys in a bracket. There's just 14 guys in every bracket. There's not a whole lot of warm-up time before you're going to run into a hammer. And in a lot of cases, there's no warm-up time. You got one right out of the gate. So you're going to run into one of the best wrestlers in the country at whatever weight you're wrestling at. And when you're seeding, we did the seeds last week, and that was a heck of a mental exercise to sit down. We had to, first year we had to do.
It was like advanced calculus.
It was unbelievable at some weights, and yet when you have to do all 14 seeds at every weight, which is the first time we had to do that, right?
Yep.
I know we had to do a specific weights in the past.
Yeah.
But
just to explain, I guess, for the fans so they understand it, in the past, typically if you have 8 or more allocation spots, you're going to seed all 14 weights because you're going to have to wrestle 2 placings beyond just the 8th place. But we felt last year as a coaching group where we all approved seeding all 14 at every weight, just as a matter of fairness. And you do see the NCAA is going to seed every kid at every weight as well. So it's very consistent in the way it's going to be done in the postseason.
It's a good move, I think.
Yeah, there's the traditionalist in me. I liked kind of
the
random draw aspect to it a little bit because you got some interesting things there,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
But there's no doubt, if you just look at numbers and you're saying, okay, this is the most fair and it priority rewards kids who have had better years, for sure it does that. But I will say, and I'm not alone, I know, as a traditionalist, that we kind of enjoyed the random draw aspect of it, especially at nationals where maybe you seeded the top 16 and then you would draw on those other guys.
Well, and the other thing that we run into, and it's probably unavoidable, but a lot of times when you're comparing top-end guys or mid-tier guys, it's apples and oranges because of the unbalanced schedule. Because this guy
don't wrestle
he's 4-3, but he wrestled numbers 1, 2, and 3 in the country. This guy is 4-1, but he didn't have to wrestle any of those guys.
Yep, and as coaches, we're on ranking panels. That's our job. So you get assigned weights through the Big Ten of what weight weights could be 2 weights in any given year, but. Ranking those guys, some weights are very clear, so let's say in that top 20, but then it gets very tough. Yeah. How do you distinguish, because you got to look at strength of schedule, you know what I mean? What does their number of wins mean in comparison, say, to a Big Ten kid who maybe doesn't have, his record doesn't look equal, but man, you look at who he's wrestled, right. And there's no wonder that his record isn't, maybe the number of wins isn't as high. So it becomes very, very tough, and that's the part where you feel, every year there's going to be controversy where you're like, well, this kid was the 28 seed and he has this guy right away. No way, he's probably a top 20 kid. What's he doing down here? Mm-hmm. So that's where it gets murky, and you could say, hey, maybe seed the top 16 and then we live with the draw. But
Kendall Coleman's a great example of the guy Corey just brought up. Kid's got 7 losses on the season, but they're to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah,
that's, you know what I mean.
I think he wrestled 3 twice, right? So,
yeah. So it's Max Lyon's another guy. Max has wrestled a ton of the top, and that's kind of 84 in the Big Ten, to be honest. But Max has wrestled a ton of the top guys in the country. Wrestled some of them more than once. All schedules are not created equal.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so when you see these and you go and you sometimes you can drive yourself a little crazy. Go round and round and round.
Yep.
At 141, we ran into the buzzsaw of, A beat B, B beat C,
sure.
C beat A, and there was nothing to differentiate between the 3 of them. So you're you have to pick a rationale and go with it.
For sure. I think too, the last thing, I know we have a limited amount of time, so
sure.
But the last thing I would say, and this is key in my mind, and indicative of this team, if you look, certainly we've had some ups and downs because of some injuries where we lost a few duels in a row, but overall we've had a very strong year, and if you look at the best tournaments, we've performed very well. So, when you talk about, you're going to hit good people right away, I think the key for us and what we have to remember is, we're the bad draw. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I really want our team to focus on, is it's not like, we're going to run into somebody good. No, man, we're the bad draw. We've been the bad draw.
They're going to run into somebody good.
We wrestle hard. We're in shape. We've won all year. So I think that's the key thing that you have to be focused on, the coach and me. It's just, hey, you're the bad draw. You're the man that people do not want to face, and you've been that way all year. So
and I think
keep being that guy.
Yeah, that answers the question that I was going to ask, was these guys that are on the lower side of the pre-seeding. Again, it's all pre-seeding. It won't be finalized until Friday. So just kind of a best guess as of right now. But the guys that are on the lower side of, you're going to run in, your first matches of the day are going to be against a 1-2, and when you put your toe on the line, that all of a sudden you're equal.
Yep.
As soon as you get out there.
Hey, listen, you're 0-0, is it? That's the old adage, right? Like we're 0-0,
Yep.
And now the guy who's all in and ready to go that day, is the guy who's going to get it done. And you referenced 184, which was an interesting weight to seed. That was a mess, right?
Yeah.
But it's very competitive, and Max had lost a couple one-point matches. But I think we'd even talked about him. You could kind of see it coming. I mean, he was getting better and better and better. Even in his losses, he was performing better.
Closing the gap.
He was cleaning up his positions. And so, it wasn't a surprise to us when he'd beaten Braunagel at the end, who's going to be seated higher than him, maybe 3-4 spots at Big Tens at least, right? So I look at Max is a bad draw. He's doing his best wrestling right now, as our most of our team. So it's, you got a chance. Be the Big Ten champ.
Yeah.
Don't look at it any other way. Go out and do you.
Well, I want to dial in a microscope down to our team a little bit. We've been talking big picture. Dial into us just for a moment. Heard some rumblings that Nate might be back. Nate Limix might be back in the mix this coming weekend.
Yeah, and Nate was in an interesting position this year. You saw that he had helped us out when Griffin Perriott was out for a while, and so we had kept him down for those purposes for 149, not to lose his certification, because those rules obviously have a part. Once we had finished our season, and he was no longer in the mix at 49, he had asked, and quite honestly, we were thinking about it too, to see could he come up and wrestle off Tanner Webster. And so they did have wrestle-offs, and Nate is in the mix as a possibility at Big Tens. I won't go any further than that today.
Sure.
But for sure, you could see Nate possibly in there this weekend. We still have to think about some things, and we certainly have appreciated everything Tanner's done for us this year, and that's why he's still in the mix. But Nate, as a senior and as a guy who's been around and done a lot of things for this program as well, we thought certainly deserved the opportunity to wrestle off for the spot.
I think one thing that's pretty cool about just this situation, and we've had this situation in other places this year, is the constant competition that we keep going in our room, and guys always battling for spots. And always, you look at a kid like Thomas Pinola, starts the year at 197. Christian comes out of red shirt, beats him for the spot. Thomas says, "Coach, I want to compete. Can I wrestle the heavyweights? Nate Limix, can I wrestle the 165? Where can I get a chance to compete?
How can I help the team?
How can I help the team? How can I get a chance to be the guy?" And that's one of the things I love about our program, is the fact that those guys are always, they not only do they want the opportunity, but they get the opportunity.
Yeah,
to go
no
do
doubt. I've really enjoyed this group of kids. I think I've said that all year long. They work hard. They're believing. They're seeing results, and they're still focused on the team as well, right? I mean, it's a very individualistic sport, as it requires. I mean, you're going out there by yourself, so it requires that. But to have that team component and to have them kind of buy in and contribute the way they have this year has been a lot of fun to see, and it only strengthens them as a group.
And I asked that about Nate, just like you mentioned, he is a senior. So as long as Christian progressing the way that you hope he would be at this point, there's a potential to have every senior in the lineup at Big Tens, which helps the rest of the team, just having that calmness that a senior who's been there brings to the rest of the team. Yeah, maturity that those guys bring to the rest of the team has a ripple effect amongst everyone.
There's no doubt. And they bring expectation too, right? Because they've been in those wars. I've said it all year. They have an expectation for how they're going to perform and what they're going to do. And I think they've bought in. They know we're peaking now.
Yep.
From a shape aspect and a mentality, I feel, very, very good. A lot of work to do. We never want, it will never be easy. I would never want to fool them otherwise. They know there's a lot of work to do. They understand that, but they should feel very confident that they are prepared and ready for that work.
Well, the guys that are on the flip side, I mentioned the guys that are on the lower side of the seeding. The guys that are on the higher side of the pre-seeding, Devin Schroeder ranked number 2, Leidy at 3, Bruner at 4.
Kendall at 3.
Kendall at 3.
Yep.
How did I skip over Kendall? Kendall at 3. Yeah, of course.
How did you skip over
I have no
Kendall?
idea. Of course, Kendall at 3. What is it that you're telling these guys to not, get ahead of themselves, to just their first matches where they see an 11, 12, 13 seed in their first match, to not just assume that this match is already over?
No, you got to wrestle the man in front of you, and this is where I probably get really boring, right? It's coach speak, but we'll say it again.
I've had a
you
real
can't
issue
say
with my
enough.
3-year-old saying boring lately, so it's funny that keeps
Yeah,
coming
here
up
we
in
are.
today's show. Like,
It truly, but that's why I believe so much in consistency and fundamentals, right? That's what you fall back on when you get to these big moments, and truly it will be about wrestling the next 20 seconds for the next 20 seconds, and then you'll deal with the next 20 seconds after that, and then after that. So it's stay in the moment. Yeah, it gets overused a lot, but you have to practice that, because you might come up with all kinds of crazy situations. You're going to have coaches in the corner running laps and yelling and screaming crazy mans and throwing bricks, and you could have a bad unexpected call, or who knows, right? You're going to have a Rutgers guy, and you're in Rutgers building, so it's loud. So you get all these crazy things, and it's just, hey, tune it all out and wrestle the 20 seconds, wrestle the guy in front of you.
Yeah.
And if you do that, we've been good, this year with that. So that's what we've got to do.
And I think the important analogy is, a lot of times we hear coaches talk about you can't replicate the stress, the anxiety, whatever that you'll feel when you step into that arena on that day. So what you have to do is try and treat that day like you're in the wrestling room, rather than try to make the wrestling room feel like that environment, because that's going to be impossible to do.
Yeah.
Is to be able to calm your nerves and treat those matches like it's just any other day.
You just got to have a plan.
Yeah.
That's where I fall back, but that's me. If you have a plan for these situations, you have a process to deal with stuff, and that's what you need to have. If you have a process and how you're going to handle things as they come up, or what you're going to do when the unexpected happens, then you're okay. You're not unprepared. And the only time, in my opinion, when you truly get panic is when you're in so deep over your head you have no plan, or you feel so unprepared for what's going on, and then you panic. But if you have an idea of what your plan is and how you're going to respond should the unexpected come up, hey, you'll be okay. It won't be panic. There's stress. There's always stress. How you perceive that, and I get we're going into psychology now, but how you perceive that stress is big too, right?
it's a good thing there's a couch in this room. I'm going to go lay down.
But
Take this all in.
hey, and everybody's got stress, right? We worked hard. We're all here. The guy across from you has stress.
Yeah.
How are you going to perceive this, right? This is probably good. I've worked really hard. My body's getting me ready to go. Let's go. Okay? So, yeah, everybody's got stress. But it's okay, because it's good stress. It's your body getting you ready to go, and I've got a plan, and I'm prepared. So that's honestly where I really fall back to these guys. And we've been doing it all year. You don't leave any stone unturned. We've talked about it mentally, how you handle it, what your warm-up needs to look like, how you need to bring your weight down. All of these things, that's the fruition of this year.
Well, boy, I'm excited.
Yeah.
You've got me
It's
pumped
gonna
up
be-
here, Coach.
It's always such a great tournament. I'm excited to be there and have a front row seat to watch this all go down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'll be watching from far away, but I'll have my bracket filled out. I'll start working on my bracket here in the next couple days for each weight class.
I got a question. Do you do one bracket, or you got just like
No, you can't.
Some people do multiple basketball NCAA brackets.
Yeah.
Right? You get that?
There's 10 weights.
I didn't know.
I can't fill out multiple brackets.
You're not going to do like 30 brackets? No. 30 times?
Go through three separate
just in
times.
case.
I was laughing. I saw some guy put his bracket for I can't remember what weight it was on Twitter the other day, and it was hilarious because it was just straight chalk.
Yeah.
It was like.
Way to go out on a limb.
Yeah, that was exactly. Those were my exact words when I'm looking at this. I was like, man, you took some big risks in this one, bud. Good job.
Why are you wasting your time?
And why do you think other people care to see you pick all the favorites to the end?
Well, it'll never go the way anyone thinks it's going to go.
Never does.
That's the one thing that we do know. But best of luck to the guys and the team as they head out to New Brunswick/Piscataway.
No, thank you. It'll be really exciting. I feel really good about our group. I think the guys are very excited. So, it'll be about just kind of managing ourselves the next 2 days, and we're prepared. We'll let it all go on Saturday.
Yep. Well, good luck. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll have a recap next week, recapping hopefully a successful weekend out at the Big Ten tournament. For Coach Tony Ursuline, Tanner, Corey, I'm Hunter. As always,
Thanks,
Aggressive
guys.
Podcast. Boiler up.